Hi, welcome to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Anne, and in this video, we are going to talk about the INFJ ENTJ relationship. I feel like an expert in this topic. I'm an INFJ, and my husband is an ENTJ. We have been married for 6 years, together for 10, and friends for even longer than that. In this video, I'm going to tell you guys about some of the biggest challenges we faced, what we use as coping strategies to kind of overcome those challenges. I think that this partnership has made me so much stronger as an INFJ, and I really think that the challenges that we present to each other make both of us better people. So let's get into it. So let's do an overview of the INFJ type. They have introverted intuition as their leading function, and then extroverted feeling as the parent function. They have introverted thinking and extroverted sensing for the final two. Us INFJs are characterized as being very empathetic, very sensitive people, very deep thinkers, and visionaries, idealists, future focused, kind of trailblazers into the world of what could be, creating better versions of the world, better versions of ourselves, and working towards actually attaining those goals. The communication style that I prefer as an INFJ is very deep, meaningful, purposeful, thoughtful. I don't want anything to do with surface level connections or conversations. It's really hard for me and it's very draining. So in pretty much every conversation that I have, I want to at least touch on something meaningful and purposeful, something that feeds me and makes me feel inspired and excited or opens me up to a new perspective. Talking about the ENTJ, they have extroverted thinking as their dominant function. Their parent function is introverted intuition, extroverted sensing, and introverted feeling as their final two functions. So they do share the introverted intuition and extroverted sensing, the INFJs and the ENTJs. ENTJs are characterized as being very dominant. They are great leaders. They are direct, very rational thinking people, and very goal-oriented. So you'll typically find these people leading. They'll be in any style of business, any style of activity, but they're going to be the one that's in control, the one who's making the decisions, the one who is creating the structure and handing out, delegating the tasks to everyone else. So my ENTJ husband fits this bill to a T. He started his own business when he was 18 and has been working for himself. He's grown a company from the ground up, and he is very, very assertive, very much wants to be in control and wants to be able to control the outcomes of every aspect of his life. ENTJ's preferred communication style is very direct, very blunt, and they are very black and white. They are all or nothing people. They want to address the issue, address the concern, address whatever it is in their conversation and resolve it in that same conversation. So they're typically going to be leading a conversation, they'll be directing it. You might not even be aware of it, but they are definitely in control. They're definitely, even if they're asking questions that seem like they don't know what's going on, a lot of times they do, and they're purposely asking questions they already know the answer to, just to judge how you're responding and to figure you out with those questions. But they always are in control. They always have that sense of they know what other people are thinking, they know what's best in the situation, they know what's needed. Let's talk about the relationship. So the initial attraction, what draws the INFJ and the ENTJ to each other, I think that these two have a very strong attraction, these two types. They're both very intense types. I'd say two of the most intense types of all. Both are intuitive. So both types are intense and deep, and they both kind of have that mysterious nature to them that really draws people in. It's the detached, mysterious, that person knows something that I don't know, or that person has something that I just can't put my finger on. Both the INFJ and ENTJ have it. But I think towards each other, that's really interesting because you don't typically see that. It's not a common trait. A lot of people, it's pretty much what you see is what you get. And also these types are very rare. So for myself as an INFJ to come across someone else who had this like mysterious allure and kind of seemed like he had it all together, which they do as ENTJs, they do have it all together. But just to see someone who's doing things and like accomplishing things, but is also very introspective and deep and can have deep conversations and entertain the, you know, we both have the NI, so to entertain the just talking about possibilities, talking about different ideas and concepts and all of that, it's, yeah, that's a big attraction. I think also in my case, we have the typical gender stereotype, gender roles in our favor. The ENTJ is what's traditionally considered to be very masculine, very assertive and leader, a good leader. All the traits that as a feminine woman I look for in a man. And then vice versa, I would say the INFJ has all the qualities that men tend to look for in a feminine woman. Being very soft, very nurturing, very caring, empathetic, very in touch with emotions and able to create harmony. So that dynamic right there is also like the opposites attract dynamic, very strong for the INFJ and the ENTJ. We're both very future focused. I couldn't imagine being in a relationship with someone who wasn't, just because that is a huge part of me, and a huge value of mine is looking to the future and constantly trying to create a better version of myself, a better version of my life. And so to have a life partner who supports me in that and is also working towards that is absolutely crucial. There's three main areas that have been the biggest challenges for us. I'd say the first one is in communication style. So the ENTJ is very blunt, direct, and black and white. It just rubs me the wrong way. When someone starts a conversation with me or responds to me in a way that's like matter of fact, here's exactly how it is, that just immediately, even if they're right, like it just immediately makes me feel like in defensive mode and also challenger mode, like because I'm so passionate and I'm so adamant about the idea that there's a lot of different perspectives and we're all different. Every person has a different perspective. And so there's no way that you can ever just be like, this is 100% how it is. And even if you feel strongly about something, like I still feel like it's important to keep an open mind and just entertain different perspectives, just for the sake of like the fact that there might be something that you missed that could benefit, that you could use to reach a better conclusion. So why would you shut that down? Like, I just don't understand why you would shut that off purposely, because to me that would be really helpful to know and to have access. It's like a tool to be able to look at all the different perspectives, and then you can consider them all. Just because you're entertaining an idea and a perspective doesn't mean you agree with it. I feel like that's a very INFJ thing though, that most other types don't even understand, and it can get us into a lot of trouble where we have this way of creating space for people to share themselves and their perspective because we genuinely value understanding another person's perspective. Why do they do what they do? But that doesn't mean that we agree with it. Just because we can understand it and empathize with it and be like, okay, now I understand why you said this or why you did this or why you see the world this way. That, to me, I'm very detached from it though. And it doesn't mean that I agree with it and that I'm going to adopt that perspective. But it does seem that when you do that for someone, that they think that because you understand their perspective, you're agreeing with it and you also have the same perspective. So yeah, that can come up with our communication, and I'm sure it rubs him the wrong way when I go into conversation always being so open-ended and not just like to the point. And I know that that can frustrate him because he's all about efficiency. The ENTJ is all about efficiency. They don't want to just get into a conversation just for the sake of entertaining a bunch of different perspectives. They want to, like, what are we doing? How is this helping us? And where are we going? And is this the best conversation to be having to move us towards that? Learning about personality types and the differences has helped us the most when it comes to our communication, because it was super eye-opening for both of us to understand, like, oh, okay, this is what's happening. Now I understand, like, why you want to engage in the conversation in this way. It's just two totally different ways of perceiving and making the decisions. So that's helped a lot with now when that happens, like, I'll just straight up tell him, like, hey, you're communicating black and white. I don't like it. And I'm just upfront and I call it for what it is. And then I think it also helps him to understand, like, oh, okay, it's not that she's like not understanding that this is the best decision or that this is the right thing. It's like my approach that's bothering her. And so yeah, so that helps with that dynamic, because it still comes up all the time, but we both just have developed a more understanding of each other, and don't take it so personally. And second thing is decisiveness. It's similar to that, but just not only in communication, but in everything in life. Decisiveness has been an issue. I would say ENTJs are the most decisive of all of the types, and INFJs are probably the least decisive. So that has definitely been a roadblock for us. I think it's funny, I heard something a while ago that was like, the ENTJ would rather make the wrong decision than no decision, and the INFJ would rather make no decision than the wrong decision. And that is so true for both of us. For him, he would rather, as an ENTJ, he would rather just come to a quick decision and follow through with it. And then if it was the wrong one, if he made a mistake, whatever, then fix that mistake and keep moving forward. Whereas for me, like, when I make a decision and it's the wrong decision and I'm now on a different path and I have to figure out how to get back into that path, it takes so much energy. I get really overwhelmed, and that's just so much harder for me. So I've realized that for myself, it's so much better for me to put more time and thought into what the best decision is for me before I actually act on it. Just because, yeah, I've been in that place before where I've made decisions that left me feeling really overwhelmed and defeated, and it ended up taking a lot more of a toll than it would have if I would have just waited a little bit longer and thought it out and then made the right decision. And yeah, I think learning to trust my intuition and to trust the process that my brain works best using has helped me a lot, because I know now, like, I really trust myself to come up with good decisions and find good paths, but I can't rush it, and I do have to follow the process that makes the most sense for me. A lot of it is hard to relay to my ENTJ partner, because a lot of it, when it comes to intuition, is unexplainable. It's just like giving my brain the space that it needs to make those connections and find the patterns, and then it's literally just like a feeling of like, oh yeah, this makes sense, or it'll come to me in a dream, or it'll just come to me when I'm out on a walk, and then I just know. It's like a feeling of like, okay, yeah, this feels right, I finally figured it out, like all the pieces are coming together, this makes sense, and I can't rush that. Like I can't just logic my way into that best decision. So as far as that goes, what's helped our relationship is, on my end, creating the boundary of what I just said, of making the space so that I don't feel like I have to make a decision, and just telling him straight up, like, no, I'm not ready to make the decision. And no matter how urgent he makes me feel like it is, realizing that it's going to be better for all of us if I don't give into that, and if I just like push back a little bit and give myself that space and room to really figure it out on my own. That helps a lot, and he eventually will get over it, even though in the moment he might be really dramatic about it. ENTJs are very dramatic people. So in the moment, yeah, it might be dramatic, and that used to really get to me because I am very highly sensitive. So when someone else has a reaction like that, it affects me deeply, but that's helped me too. It's just setting the boundaries and not letting the drama and urgency and all of that get to me, because I realize that he's going to get over it and it's going to be fine, and we're all going to be happier in the long run because I made the right decision and I'm not becoming overwhelmed and angry. And yeah, so those are the two. And then the third, also related, but it's just the aspect of the ENTJ bulldozing. The ENTJs, so the INFJs, we are known for making space for people. We're known for really kind of suppressing ourselves so that other people have room to be themselves and to explore their ideas, explore just their perspectives, and we really are good at making the space for them, but we do that by suppressing our own opinions and our own preferences. And a lot of times I think what INFJs are hoping for and what we do get, I would say especially, I'm going to make a video on the INFJ-INFP relationship because that is my favorite ever for a friendship. If you're an INFJ, I think you need to find an INFP friend or multiple, because they do that where I think what an INFJ is hoping for when we're making space for other people, one of the things is that they are going to in turn do the same for us, and INFPs will do that. INFJs too, it's just harder to come by other INFJ friends. Anyways, what was I saying? So making space. ENTJs don't need anybody to make space for them, okay? They go out in the world and they are making their own space. That's what the ENTJ does. They do not wait for you to make space for them. They don't wait for your permission. In fact, if you create the space for an ENTJ, they are going to trample it. They're going to take much more than what you've designated for them, and they are going to just, it's not good. So the ENTJ doesn't need you to make space. INFJs need to do the opposite, actually. We need to make space for ourselves when we're in a relationship with an ENTJ. That's what we need to focus on. And that's what I've learned. It took me years and years and years to realize that concept and learn that concept, that in this relationship, I need to be constantly focusing on creating my own energy bubble, my own space, and putting up those boundaries, and that's what's required of me. And yes, it took a lot of work at first to figure out where my boundaries were. If you haven't watched my video on setting boundaries as an empath, I'm gonna link it, and I highly recommend doing that because I share in that video a lot of the strategies that I used. And especially if you're in a relationship with an ENTJ, that's gonna be very important. That's what kept our relationship together. I feel like if an INFJ never learns to set boundaries, then their relationship with an ENTJ is going to be terrible. It's going to be either extremely abusive, or it's just going to fall apart and crumble, and there will be no relationship. So setting the boundaries, and really just not thinking of my relationship with my ENTJ as me taking on the caretaker role of creating space, which I do in a lot of my relationships. Instead, it's just a completely different dynamic with an ENTJ. I also think that's why this relationship is so amazing. As an INFJ, it's one of the only relationships in my life that has that dynamic. I'm not the one who's trying to create space anymore. It's more of stepping up to the challenge, stepping up to the plate, leveling up, and really diving deep into who I am as a person, what I want, and learning how to express that and how to voice that and how to live in that power more often. I would love to hear your thoughts on this relationship. If you have experienced this relationship, or if you are one of these types and you are just curious about what this relationship would look like, I'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions or comments or anything, be sure to connect with me in the comment section below, and like this video if it was helpful. If you want to see more content related to personality types, enneagrams, self-development, then be sure to subscribe. I post a video every week, and I'm going to be starting a new series soon that I'm super excited about. So if you want to be up to date on that, then be sure to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.